This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the CEO and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. How are you this week?
I'm doing well. I hope you're doing super well.
I am. Thank you. And we're getting geared up and ready for Thanksgiving. Are you looking forward to celebrating with family and friends?
I am. We get to go to Nashville, Tennessee. I've never been away from home on Thanksgiving. It's always my home vacation time, but we're going to Nashville. My wife's got a sister that lives out there, and we've rented a retreat, and a lot of our family's coming there. So we hope it's going to be super.
That'll be so special. I love Nashville. That's one of my favorite places. So I know you'll have a great time.
I love country music myself.
Yes, sir. I do too.
That's right.
Well, great.
You know that old story, they were able to reverse country music, and the wife came home, the dog came home, the car got fixed.
I love that Rascal Flatts song. Very fun.
You got it.
Well, I'm excited to dive into today's topic with you. As always, you've put a lot of thought in creating a great show for our listeners out there. This weekend, we are going to be talking about the whens of retirement, as in, when should you do this? When should you do that? If you've ever asked yourself some of these questions as it relates to your financial situation, you're not going to want to miss today's show. So, Tom, I'm excited to dive into this. I know we've talked about some of this on the TV show before, but these whens are really critical. Knowing not just what to do, but when to do it really makes a difference.
Right. And I think sometimes we focus a lot on our show with people who are close to retirement and are already in retirement. And I think today, if you're out there and you're listening, and like I say, sometimes, you're riding along with your dad and your mom in the car and you're tuning us out. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you really need to listen today because we do have something for you. And leading off when it comes to whens, let's talk about what you should be doing when you are in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. That's a great time. A lot of people say, well, I'll worry about retirement when it gets here. Well, that's like saying, well, I'll worry about traveling to Dallas when I get there.
Right.
You're never going to get there if you don't plan the trip. And the earlier you plan the trip, the more preparation you make, the better. So if you're listening out there, you're in a phase right there in your 20s and 30s and 40s where you probably don't have a lot of money. You hopefully you're not sitting back hoping for a great inheritance. If so, tell your parents who are sitting in the front seat because you're probably riding in the back seat and living in the basement. But if you're out there and you're in your 20s and 30s and you're really wanting to get started, or even in your 40s and you're wanting to get started, there's some definite things you need to start doing for retirement. Number one, almost every company, a lot of companies, I wouldn't say necessarily almost every company, but a lot of companies offer a 401k plan, or if you work for a nonprofit, you've got a 403b plan. Those are phenomenal things to get involved in when you are younger for several reasons. They're automated. They make it automate. Kristen, you and I have a common friend, Dave Bach, and he's written, I think, 13 now New York Times bestsellers. And he always says you automate the important. And he wrote a book called The Automatic Millionaire. And in that book, he's talking about if you're going to start saving, the very best thing to do when you start saving, if you've got a company plan, is join that company plan. And I know when you're young, you think, well, I've got plenty of time. I don't have plenty of money. And, do I want to take 10% of my money or 5% of my money and not get it? Well, let me tell you something. That's one of the smartest things you can do, and the
Yes.
earlier you do it, the better, right,
Yes,
Kristen?
because time is your biggest asset. And I know any of us who didn't learn this until we were older wish we had known this in our 20s. There's that amazing chart you mentioned, David Bach, and I used to present his material, Smart Women Finish Rich, and we would show this chart where it shows you that if you start putting away $5,000 a year, just $5,000 a year at a young age, and never save another penny, you will earn more than someone who starts in their 20s or someone who starts in their 30s and has to save even more than you. It's amazing.
That chart, I know exactly what chart you're talking about, okay?
Hmm.
Because other people have pirated that chart because
Yes, it's
Dave
so
came out
good.
with it. Right, it really is. But it's like if you start when you're 19, save until you're 28, and you stop,
Hmm.
and then somebody else starts at 28 and saves until they're 65, the same amount of money, the same amount of interest, the person who saved earlier, the same amount for the fewer number of years has more money.
Yes.
That's what Mark Twain called the miracle of compound interest, because
Yep.
it just continues to build. But
Yep.
the other secret is that automation. If
Hmm.
some people say, well, I'll start an IRA, which if you don't have a company plan, that's a great idea.
It's a great alternative.
It
Absolutely.
is a great alternative. And there's probably an even better alternative is to go ahead and pay the tax on it now, because if you
Mhm.
put it in an IRA, if you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, you can put $6,500 this year in an IRA. And if you get to save the tax on it now, you don't pay tax on it now. But probably an even better way in the long run is if you put that in a Roth IRA. That
Mhm.
is so much better because you pay the tax on it now. Yes, I know you pay the tax on it now, but you never pay the tax on it again.
Right.
As it grows, as it comes out. And there's this thing when you get to be real old like I am, you start worrying about required minimum distributions
Yes, those
because you're required.
RMDs. Hmm.
Yeah, RMDs, Kristen. You don't have to do that with a Roth IRA. But the company plan, you don't have to get the money in your paycheck. Think about it. Think about all the mechanisms here. You can join the company plan and they take the money out and put it into the 401k or sometimes even a Roth 401k. All right. But if you don't, you say, well, I want to do the IRA. You get paid for it. You pay tax on it. You write a check for it to go into the IRA, or you have them automatically withdraw it into the IRA. And then you get to deduct the tax again, but it's too many steps,
Yep.
and it's just too many things. You need to push the easy button if you're in your 20s and your 30s, and you need to have a retirement plan. The earlier, the better.
For sure. And, quick story on that, Tom. When I was first out of college, my first job was in full-time ministry. That's another thing that you and I have in common. And I had a 403B at my disposal, and I was not making very much at all. But I'm so grateful that my mentor said, Kristen, you need to at least put in the match, which was 4%. And so, it was scary to be able to give up since I wasn't making that much anyway, and I was on full support. But that 4%, I never missed it because it came out before I even saw it. And
Right.
I'm so grateful because those were those early years where at least I started something. And then when I left that job, I was able to roll that 403B over into a traditional IRA. And then it's just continued to compound since then. And when I left another job where I had a 401k, I was able to roll that into that same traditional IRA account. And so now it's just grown and grown and grown, but it's because that time was on my side.
Exactly. People come to some of our seminars and they're not in their 20s, 30s, and 40s like we're talking to in this segment, but they are in their 50s and 60s. And we tell them, gather all your assets, come in. We're gonna put together a retirement blueprint for you. Now that we've got the lumber yard built, we'll show you what we can build for a retirement plan. And it's not uncommon, Kristen, for people to come up and say, I forgot I had that 401k.
Yes.
Because it was so little. I had it when I was in my 20s or my 30s. And wow, the last time I looked, it had $40,000 in it. And now it's at $88,000, a lady told me recently. So they grow. Compound interest is great. It's automated. And it's funny, I used to be a pastor, and people used to tell me when it came to giving to the church, and a lot of people tithe and they give 10% to the church. And one guy told me one time, I've had people who aren't making much money say, I can't afford to tithe because I'm not making much money. And probably one of the most wealthy guys I know, he was in the oil field industry and he was making, gazillions of dollars. And he was saying, it was easy to tithe when I was young because it was a small amount. And now it's a big amount. So if you want to look at it like it hurts me, it's always going to hurt you. Okay. But if you want to look at it like it's just a percentage, and here's another thing. When you get a raise, okay, split the raise. Give yourself, start with a certain amount. And when you get a raise, take half of it, but put the other half in the savings. And before long, you'll build up that amount that you're saving over a period of years. But you can't, if you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, I don't want to end this segment without spending a couple of minutes talking about after-tax accounts, because a lot of people come in and they say, my dad and mom work with you. I'm 25 years old. I'm just getting started. I want to put all my money into my 401k. Now, I've been advocating that for the last 9 or 10 minutes. But you also, if you're going to buy a house, or if you're going to have purchases, or you're going to pay for a wedding. I've got a daughter getting married next year, and she's saving money to pay for a wedding. So am I. Okay.
Right.
And so if you're going to do that, that money needs to be in an after-tax account. So you need to take care of not just having all of your eggs in the basket of the 401k, but as you're building for those big purchases, you also need to be adding money into an after-tax account. That's an account that's not going to penalize you if you take money out of it before you're 59 and a half.
Right.
So again, there's certain ways to put your money. Some of you may say, well, that's a little bit of a shock to me. The other thing when you're 20s, 30s, and 40s is you may have the house, a mortgage, you may have children, you may have other things. So you need to take care of your insurance needs. At that time, you might need a term life insurance policy that will pay everything off if something happens to you and that income is not coming into the family. You say, wow, there's a lot of things to consider. And you know what, Kristen, that's one reason people don't take a step early to start planning for retirement, is they feel like, well, I've got a long time. But the real reason is it's the unknown. It's confusing. It's the twilight zone, is what we used to say in my generation. Here's how I can help you with the twilight zone. You call in, no matter what your age, we will help starting to build for you a retirement plan that we call a retirement blueprint. And we'll take your particular situation, your income, your options, and we'll begin to build a plan for you.
Thank you, Tom. That number to call is 888-930-5609 to get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint from Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. We have so much more to cover on today's episode regarding the wins in retirement. Stay with us. More after this.
At Mosley Wealth Management, we believe that everyone should have access to a comprehensive financial plan without having to pay a fee for it. We understand that financial planning can be complex and intimidating, which is why we've made it our mission to help people work towards achieving financial security and peace of mind in retirement. Our experienced advisors can work with you to develop a personalized financial plan that is tailored to your unique needs and goals. We'll help you identify potential areas for improvement in your retirement plan, including your investment strategy, tax planning, and risk management approach. With our comprehensive approach to retirement planning, you can be confident that you're making informed decisions that are designed to help you achieve your financial objectives. And the best part, at Mosley Wealth Management, you don't have to pay a fee for a written financial plan. Call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary financial plan with one of our experienced advisors. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and we are having a great conversation today on the whens of retirement, meaning when should you do this? When should you do that? You mentioned earlier, Tom, that there's so much overwhelm that can happen with some of these questions. And that's why we're really dedicating this show to help walk you through what are the things you need to be thinking about and doing at particular points in your life. And you've offered this complimentary retirement blueprint. And if you're listening out there, there are 5 different office locations where you can come in and meet with Tom and the amazing team of Mosley Wealth Management to receive your own complimentary retirement blueprint. Offices in Anaheim, Ontario, Glendale, San Diego, and Arcadia. So Tom, we talked in the first segment about some things that people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s need to be aware of and thinking through and going ahead and doing to set themselves up for financial success. Let's now talk about the decade of the 50s, because an important thing happens when people enter their 50s. They near what's called the retirement red zone. So unpack that for us and what we need to be thinking about at that stage of our lives.
Okay, it's not where everybody paints themselves red, okay? The red zone is like in football when you get inside the 20-yard line. That is really, in fact, they keep statistics, Kristen, on how well quarterbacks and coaches and teams perform when they get in the red zone. What's their percentage of scoring touchdowns or scoring field goals? When you get in the retirement red zone of the 50-year-olds, and I really call it 50 years old to 59 and a half, because they changed the rules again at 59 and a half in a major way. But if you're out there and you say, well, I'm not a baby boomer. No, you're Gen Xers if you're into 50 years old right now, except for the 59-year-olds or so. But if you're right in that retirement red zone, there's some really important things that you need to do. The heat is on. I mean, that's where you make or break in a lot of times. And a lot of times their theme song is "Let's Get the Party Started." Because, in fact, last week, I had an appointment with a lady who called in from the TV, and she came in and she said, okay, I'm sorry I'm wasting your time. I said, well, wait a minute, let's consider, let me decide whether I was wasting my time or not. And this lady had some, my heart really went out to her, Kristen, because she had cared for her parents who both had Alzheimer's, and she'd had to take off work and actually stop work about 5 years ago just to care for her parents. And she said there was money there for my parents to spend, but we spent almost everything. So she said, here I am. I'm 50 years old. I have absolutely nothing saved for retirement, but I just got a really nice job. And, I thought it was really neat that the job she got was a job in healthcare because of what she had learned by caring for her parents. But here she is. And you may not relate to a lot of those things, but you may relate to the fact that I woke up that day and I pushed the alarm clock and I looked at it and I realized I'm 50 and I haven't prepared for retirement. Okay, so first of all, join the club. In fact, Congress, can you believe the unsympathetic, uncaring Congress we have sometimes? They even have passed laws that allow you, when you hit the red zone at 50, you can do what's called catch-up provisions.
Yes.
And the reason they allow catch-up provisions is they know most of the time people are behind the 8 ball when they get to 50. So like we said in the first segment, if you are 20s, 30s, 40s, you can put away $6,500 in an IRA or a Roth IRA. It jumps. At 50, you can put away $7,500 a year into an IRA or a Roth IRA. Now, if you have a 401k or a 403b available to you, like you mentioned your 403b earlier that you were when you were in a private, in a nonprofit organization, that contribution maximum jumps from $22,500 if you're under 50 years of age. It jumps to $30,000. That's a big jump.
That is a huge jump. Yep. Makes a difference.
That's another reason, Kristen, for people to take advantage of the company plans if they can, because you can put so much more in there. But the biggest thing you need to do, if you do have a 401k or a 403b available, especially when you get into this red zone that we're talking about, the 50-year-olds, you need to start contributing to it, because that's money that will just build over a period of time, mushroom like we talked about last time. That's called compounding interest in real financial terms. And you begin to build your plan. Catch-up time. Now's the time to really put it together. Now, just a little caveat here. If you run your own business, you may be available and you may have available to you a SEP, S-E-P IRA. And in those, you can put significant amounts of money in those if you run your own business and you're a business owner. So make sure and let us know if that's something that might be available to you. And if you come in and you meet with one of our all-star advisors, 6 of us across Southern California, like you gave the locations, you meet with us, we're going to look at every option that's best for you so that you can, especially during this catch-up time of the red zone, really put away money and begin to save for retirement. It's crucial at that time.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Very crucial. And, I'm happy that you're addressing that so many people find themselves in this situation, because I think sometimes there can be some shame that comes with that when people get to their 50s and they go, oh gosh, I haven't done anything yet. And they get stuck in that overwhelm. But the good news is it's never too late to get started. The key is to start and to build that. And it's amazing how quickly that compound interest can kick in for you, even in your 50s.
Even in your 50s. I train with a worldwide well-known business coach named Dan Sullivan with Strategic Coach. And he has one saying, and I don't know if it was originally from him, but I credit him. All progress starts by telling the truth. And if you're going to find your way somewhere, like to retirement, you've got to know exactly where you're starting from, where you are right now. Right. So just an honest approach. And I am so glad you brought up that word shame, because a lot of people, like this lady, came in and she just felt so shameful that she felt it was such a shameful situation that she didn't have anything saved. But I totally understand that. My heart went out to her. I admire her. There are reasons, but going forward, the best thing to do is make a plan and start taking action. Exactly. Now, there's not just saving money, but what I also see when people are in their 50s and they're 50 to 59 and a half is they need to get out of debt.
Yes.
Because that's like trying to run a race, Kristen. And, the scriptures talk about throw aside the weight that so easily besets us and throws us off. And a lot of people run the retirement race with a big weight on their shoulder, because during those years when they're still working, generally 50 to 59 and a half at least, and maybe even into the 60s, they don't take care of debt, or they continue to incur more and more debt. If you're sitting out there and you're 15 years or 10 years from retirement, you need a plan to get out of debt. And I always try to tell my people that I work with, people that are debt-free from even the house and the mortgage on their house are the most contented people in retirement. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Kristen, it might shock you. Almost everybody I work with wants to live in a house the rest of their life as opposed to under a bridge,
yes.
And if you're going to live in a house, the very best house to live in, and I know this goes counter to a lot of financial advisors who say, no, don't spend that money paying off your house. You're always going to have a house payment. Well, if you listen to them, you are. But the most contentment and the contentment that people have of having their house paid off, I liken it to running the race in retirement, if your house is paid off, of running the low hurdles versus running the high hurdles. Because when you run those high hurdles, I don't know if you've ever watched them. I could never jump the high hurdles. I could probably touch the high hurdle, with my hand. But man, they almost stop and jump and then start again. But when they're running the low hurdles, it's just, man, it's almost like they just step over those things.
Yeah.
And when that mortgage is paid off, and there's a couple of other things too, the dreaded Parent Plus loans, where the good news is you had your children when you were in your 30s, and you inherited those Parent Plus loans when you were up for 40s or 50s, and the kids ran up a big loan getting their sociology degree, and now they can't get a job, so you're having to pay off the Parent Plus loan. But the good news is they give you 30 years. You know what the bad news is? They give you 30 years and you still got to pay that thing. So getting out of debt, paying those things off, beginning to not be a slave to the lenders who have loaned you money, that is such a crucial thing for you to do. And the last thing I would say, not just, really putting the heat on in savings, getting out of debt, but get a picture of what you're going to do in retirement. Get a goal. Get a vision. It's been called in a movie the bucket list. Get a bucket list. start looking forward to what you're going to do in retirement because you've done the right thing. You're starting to save money and you're getting out of debt. You can really start looking to, hey, this is what we're going to do. My wife and I are planning a European riverboat cruise, and it's going to be one of those 15-day Amsterdam to Budapest. Okay.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And, when we cross that one off, we're going to make another one. See, my goal for the people that we work with, Kristen, is that we're able to put a plan together, whether they're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, wherever they are, so that they can continue to enjoy their life. They'll never run out of income the rest of their life. They'll pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes. And that's what we do. We put together what they have into a retirement blueprint. And that's what we offer to you. If you're listening to this program, you say, those are things I need to do. Well, get some help. Our meetings are complimentary, which means they're free. They don't cost you anything. If you decide to work with us, you know exactly what fees you pay before you ever sign anything with us. You understand, but you've got to read. Your job is right now to do one thing. Pick up the phone and call us, and Kristen's going to give you the number.
Absolutely. That number to call is 888-930-5609. We encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity, as Tom and the team at Mosley Wealth Management like to say, ease into the life of your dreams. That's what it's all about, is giving you permission to dream again in retirement and to make sure that those dreams can become a reality with a solid financial plan in place. More on this week's episode right after this.
Today, we believe retirement looks a lot different than it did for our parents and grandparents. With longer life expectancies, rising healthcare costs, and potential changing tax brackets, we think it's important to have a retirement plan that is tailored to your unique needs and goals. At Mosley Wealth Management, we understand the challenges that today's modern retirees face. That's why our experienced advisors work with you to develop a comprehensive retirement plan that takes into account all of the factors that can potentially impact your financial security in retirement. Whether you're looking to retire in the next few years or you're just starting to think about your retirement plan, Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management will provide you with a personalized evaluation of your current plan, including your investment strategy, tax planning, and risk management approach. We'll work with you to identify potential areas for improvement and create a plan that is designed to help you work towards achieving your retirement goals. Don't let the complexities of modern retirement planning keep you from achieving financial security and peace of mind in retirement. Call 888-930-5609 for your complimentary and comprehensive retirement blueprint. That's 888-930-5609.
How do you know if you're retirement ready? That's a question many people ask themselves as they approach their golden years. We believe the answer can be complex and depends on many factors, such as your savings, monthly expenses, and lifestyle goals. At Mosley Wealth Management, we can help you determine if you're retirement ready. We'll work with you to assess your financial situation, identify any potential income gaps, and develop a customized plan that aligns with your goals. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Call us today to learn how we can help you work towards achieving financial security and peace of mind in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And Tom, I know that you always are so busy in the area doing lots of live events, but this is the weekend before Thanksgiving, so there's going to be no live events this week in the area. But we encourage you, all you need to do is just go to the website, mosleywealthmanagement.com. Again, that's mosleywealthmanagement.com. And you can look at future events coming up. And I know you have quite the full calendar for December. So if you'd like to come and meet Tom and the team in person, check out the website and be able to see what events are going to be happening near you. Well, Tom, today, so far in the show, we're talking today about the whens of retirement. And we covered in the first segment a lot of what folks in their 20s, 30s, and 40s need to be aware of, things they need to be doing to set themselves up for financial success. We just talked about the decade of the 50s and what it means to be in the retirement red zone. But we now need to talk about this magical age of 59 and a half. And I would like to point out that so many of the IRS rules are just crazy. I mean, who knows exactly when they're going to turn 59 and a half off the top of their head, right? But yet, that's such a critical birthday. So let's start with age 59 and a half and go from there.
The only person I know that talks about their half birthday is my 2.5-year-old granddaughter, Marin. And you'll ask her how old she is, and she'll say 2.5. Okay.
Oh, yes.
But at some point about age 3 or 4, you quit saying that half year. But it's really important when you get to be 59 and a half because the rules change for retirement. And even the government rules. And I think of free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last, And
Yep.
that's what happens at 59 and a half because there's all kinds of things that begin. First of all, people really, really start, like we talked about in that last segment, focusing on retirement at 59 and a half because you've got the plan in place, you've got the lumber yard that you're building up, and hopefully you do have a retirement blueprint so you know how that lumber yard is going to build out and the house you're going to live in retirement. Not the physical house, but the financial house. And at 59 and a half, the government begins to step in and change the rules on us, and they're in our favor because at 59 and a half, all of that money you saved, your 20s, 30s, and 40-year-olds that we talked about in the 401k and in the IRAs, and all of that money that you really started saving when you were in your 50s and they upped the limits, you're going to begin to have access to that money at 59 and a half, and you're not going to have to pay a penalty at that point.
Right. Because if you withdraw the money before 59 and a half, not only do you have to pay tax on it if it's tax deferred, but then you have a 10% withdrawal penalty as well.
That's right. And the government sends you a thank you note for that, and they love you for that. No, not really. They don't. Okay. They just charge you a 10% penalty for taking it out and that's why we talked to the 20s and 30-year-olds and we said you need to start that after-tax account. But I would hasten to say to the 50-year-olds and even the people who are still in their 60s, you need some money that's usually a significant amount that's in an after-tax account as well as that pre-tax account that's never been taxed before in the retirement plans.
Right.
But in those retirement plans, you can begin to do several things. You can take the money out and spend it if you need it. Be careful. It's going to raise your income level. It's going to, every penny that comes out of those that you get as a check to you is going to come out as regular income, and you're going to pay regular income tax. You say, what might happen there? This is if you're still working. Let's say you're still working and you're married and your total income is, let's just use $90,000, and you take out an extra $10,000, you're pushing yourself into the 22% tax bracket. So not only could you pay tax on it, but it could push you into a higher tax bracket by taking income out. So you have to be careful.
Right.
Anytime you mess with the tax system, it's like messing with a pit bull that's asleep. You got to be really careful because you don't know if you're going to do it the happy way or do it the unhappy way when it wakes up.
Right.
But at 59 and a half, here's what's a real key that a lot of people don't know about. At 59 and a half, because most 401ks are not built for planing off is what I call it, or letting the air out of the tires. And by that, I mean by those two illustrations, by slowing down a little bit, by not being just all out, Katie bar the door aggressive. But at 59 and a half, a lot of people are saying, I've got a pretty good pile here. It's like the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl 6 years ago. They had a 19-point lead, but they kept gambling with it, and they ended up losing the Super Bowl. I won't go into all the details of Tom Brady. Well, there I go into the details, but it's, but at 59 and a half, most people have enough money to retire, have enough money to put it into a retirement blueprint and be secure with their income and secure that they're paying the right amount of taxes, but they keep it gambling. And what happens if we have another 2000 to 2002 47% downturn?
Right.
What happens if we have another 2008 financial disaster where we have a 54% downturn right before you retire? So even the government steps in and says, that's a concern. So at 59 and a half, almost every 401k, 403b will allow you to do an in-service distribution. Now, what does that mean? It means you're still in service to the company, but you're 59 and a half, and it will allow you to take some or all of your money out of the 401k. I usually Kristen, don't like to take all of it,
Mm-hmm.
because if you take all of it, some companies use that as an opportunity to close the 401k.
Ooh, yeah,
So
you
they
got to
don't
be
have to keep,
careful.
yeah,
Yep.
so they don't keep matching. But you're able to then move that money without paying tax on it if you move it into the right kind of vehicles and you're working with the right kind of advisor. There's no taxable event to move that into an IRA that will most of the time give you many, many more options to invest. And you might be able to invest in an income vehicle that will pay you guaranteed income for the rest of your life. You say, I don't have a pension. Well, you could get your own, if you understand what I'm saying. And you
Mm-hmm.
could have the guarantee of never running out of income from the money that you put in there. And depending on the size of the money you put in there, it's a bigger payout. So there are all kinds of options. You could move it into something that is more diversified, that maybe has a little bit more option than just putting it into the money market account, like it's in most 401ks. That's called an in-service distribution, and it's not available to you until you reach 59 and a half. So those are the key things, being ready to start making some maneuvers. There's a couple of other things. You also need to set a projected date as to when you're going to retire. You need to start planning things, right, Kristen?
Right. Well, and I was going to say, that I think that's a question that a lot of people have is, when can I retire? And I think some people, without having a solid plan in place before they come in and do this complimentary retirement blueprint with you, it's this unknown. And a lot of folks, I think, just kind of resign themselves to thinking, well, I guess I'm going to have to work a really long time, or they don't even know a ballpark of when they could feasibly retire. But we've talked, and I know you've shared some stories, what a gift you're able to give folks when they come in and they're able to see the numbers and see the plan. And if they're ready to retire, when they find out that they actually can, that is just such a beautiful gift you can give folks.
This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. Get your own no-cost complimentary retirement plan review. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Listen, you have hit the heart of why I do what I do. Because my why, there's a book out there, Know Your Why.
Yes.
My why is the sigh. When I'm sitting across the table from somebody and they've come in and they've said, can we retire? Which really means, can we afford to retire?
Right.
Which
Are we
really
going to be
means,
okay?
are we going to be okay? And then they start thinking through it. And what happens when one of us goes and we lose one Social Security and the tax rates go up because a single filer has to pay more tax than a married couple as far as per dollar. And so, is it going to last as long as they do? All those worries. And we're able to take their assets, their lumberyard, and we're able to put it into a retirement plan. Then people begin to set a date. Then they come in and they say, hey, we think based on the blueprint that you put together for us, we can retire at this point. Their biggest question to me is, can we retire now, or should we work 2 more years or 3 more years? That is right up our alley. I mean, that's the inside fastball that Mike Trout can hit out of the park, for the Angels, because that is exactly what we do during this 59 and a half, all the way up to, wherever you go, that 59 and a half plus age. When can we push the button? When can we do it? And here's another thing to think about. This is why you need to plan on it early. So many companies, when they look to lay somebody off, they look to lay off the people who are older.
Yes.
Because you cost more for benefits and health insurance and all of those things. So rather than just, closing your eyes and charging, rather than just getting in the back seat of the car like my 6-year-old granddaughter Coco might do if we were headed to, say, the river. And, she's going to find 20 minutes in, she's going to start saying, are we there yet?
Right.
Are we there yet? Because you really don't know. You don't have a plan. You don't know what it's going to take to get there. And that's what we can do for somebody, is give them, again, the sigh, that rest. We call it the sleep well at night feeling, that if I do get laid off, I mean, the longer you work, the better it's going to be. The more you're going to have, the better it's going to be. But generally, just knowing that you have that peaceful thought that if I did get laid off, I've got enough, and I've got a retirement blueprint, and I've got a plan if that happens. Or if I do go to the doctor and I get the wrong report, then I've got things taken care of. And that's what we can do for you if you're sitting out there and you're in this retirement red zone and you're past the red zone. I mean, you're on the goal line, and it's a matter of, move the ball over or not. please, if you're out there and you're thinking, well, I wonder if it's really free. I wonder if they'll really help me. We will give you a written retirement blueprint. We will put a plan in your hand so that you'll know, and it'll give you the details. But there's one other thing you've got to do besides receiving that in your hand. You've got to pick up and with your hand dial the number and call and get on our calendar.
That's right. To get a plan in your hand, all you need to do is call this number 888-930-5609 to be able to schedule a time to come in and meet with Tom or one of the advisors, the all-star advisors of Mosley Wealth Management at one of our 5 office locations, so that you can get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609, or you can email at info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. More on today's episode of The Winds of Retirement right after this.
Get your own no-cost retirement plan review at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. At Mosley Wealth Management, we believe that financial planning should be different by design. That's why we don't use a one-size-fits-all approach to retirement planning. Your life and your career has been completely different from that of your neighbors, family, or friends, because there is only one you. That's why we believe in taking the time to get to know you, your goals, and your unique financial situation. With Mosley Wealth Management, our team will work with you to develop a comprehensive retirement plan that is tailored to your specific needs. With our comprehensive approach to retirement planning, we'll work with you every step of the way to help you work towards achieving your unique retirement goals. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today for your complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And in the last segment, we were talking about this question that so many folks have of when can I retire? And really, Tom, at the heart of that question is, as you and I talked about, it's wondering, am I going to be okay? Translation, do I have enough money to last me throughout the rest of my life or my spouse's life should I predecease them? And I think this whole question of when do I know I have enough money is really top of mind, especially in light of that recent campaign that came out a couple of years ago. And it was put out by a big financial firm in the industry. It had this campaign of what's your number? Right? It was what amount do I need to have saved up? What should my lump sum be that allows me to go ahead and say yes to retiring? We need to unpack that and talk about that, because I think some people have a lot of misconceptions about how much is required in order for them to retire. And really, at the end of the day, there's no one size fits all. Everybody's situation is different. But talk to me about that and kind of what you've seen as folks have come in and the effect of this campaign, if you will, on people's thinking in this area.
Well, for years, it seems like the target number has been $1 million. I mean, that's people wanted to have that. There was a sign in Orange County on the 55 freeway about 3 years ago. Do you have your $1 million saved? Like that was some kind of magic number. But another thing you just said, Kristen, was how individual retirement is, because I tell a story. One time I have a client who came in and he really only had about $120,000 saved, and he got laid off after 34 years, and he was 64. He planned on retiring about another 3 or 4 years later. And I always ask the question, is he in trouble? Because his lump sum was like $120,000. And everybody in the class, when I'm teaching a class, will just nod their head. And I tell him, okay, let me give you some more information. He got laid off from a governmental industry where his pension was $15,000 a month. Okay. And he had all of his house paid off. In fact, he had bought 3 more rental houses, and his income from those was about $6,000 a month. And he had paid into Social Security and working for the government. And so he had a full Social Security of $15,000 a month coming in from a pension, and he had $6,000 a month coming in from rental houses. Now, let me ask you the question again. Is he okay? Well,
Mhm.
he spends about $3,000 a month. So yeah, in fact, his only problem is, what do I do with all this excess
Excess.
money?
Right.
Because his situation is different. But back to what you said, it's not the lump sum, it's not the main number. And we say that a lot of times on this program. We say it, I think, coming onto the program, that it's not the lump sum in retirement, it's your income. Do you
Mhm.
have enough guaranteed increasing income to last for the rest of your life? And when we go to the core of finding out and building a retirement blueprint with every single person that comes in, and in every single class that I teach, whether it's a Social Security class, whether it's a tax class, whether it's our 3-hour retirement master class. And again, you said it earlier, you can go see those on the website where we're having them all over Southern California. But the main thing is, you need to decide what you are going to be spending on a monthly basis. It's called a budget, okay?
The
And
B word. I
the
used to
B
say,
word,
right?
exactly. And, because I've had people, the lowest I've ever had was, I had a couple came in and they needed $782 a month. I mean, they had it to the penny. That's
Mm.
what they needed. And I'm thinking, how can you live off of $782? My wife buys more cosmetic products per month than that, and how can somebody live off of that? And sure enough, I'm joking, if Susan,
Mhm.
if you're listening out there, okay,
We love you,
but
Susan.
we love you, we do, but how can somebody live off of that? But then they could live off of it. They had about 180. In fact, they're still a client, and they have
Mhm.
about $180,000. They came in with about 150. We've actually grown their money through the years,
Mhm.
even though they're very conservative. So $782, and you're sitting out there, you're saying 782 won't do it.
Mhm.
That won't buy the groceries. Okay. So you need to know. I've also had a client who came in and they had a lump sum of $3.2 million.
Yes, we talked about that last week. Yeah, represents
Exactly.
that.
And they needed like over $30,000 a month. And I thought, no way, just like no way on the 782, no way
Mhm.
on the plus 30,000. And I looked at their budget, and sure enough, that's how much they needed to have come in. So
Mhm.
everyone that's listening to me, in fact, you may have two families riding in the same car or listening to this together, and each of your situations is different. And that's
Mhm.
why when we offer a retirement blueprint, one guy called in recently and he said, "Yeah, I don't want to come in. I don't want to talk to anybody. Just send me my blueprint." Well,
Mm.
that would be like saying, "Okay, I'm going to send you the house of your dreams on the lot of your dreams, and I'm just going to pick it out of the sky. I got to know
Right.
what your lot is, how much lumber you have, how much you have for us to build that retirement blueprint." But the core of a retirement blueprint is knowing what you're spending every single month, that budget.
Mhm.
And you say,
Mhm.
"Well, I'm not retired yet." Precisely. I'm glad you're thinking exactly the way I am, because you can only, like in science, work from the known to the unknown.
Yes.
So the first thing you do is you sit down and you go through everything you're spending on a monthly basis. You go through everything, that the bills that come every 6 months or every year, like the insurance for the house or the earthquake insurance or something like that. Some things, that the car insurance that you only pay on an annual basis, and you divide that up into a monthly, and you get a monthly target. And some people come in and they get it all laid out, and you know what you're doing now, so you can work from there. And then once, we always give people 2 sheets, Kristen, and the reason is 2 budget sheets.
Mhm.
And the second budget sheet is when you're especially in that 59 and a half that we talked about last segment plus,
Right.
and you're getting really close to retirement.
Mhm.
You need to then go through there and say, what's going to change? Well, the house is
Yes.
going to be paid off in 3 years. You know,
I won't be
call,
commuting anymore, so, this might go down or that might go down, right?
I got you on that one, Kristen, because I had a guy came in recently. It's funny that you brought that up, because he said, "I won't be going to El Segundo every week." And
Mm.
I said, "Well, what?" And I talked to his wife, who was sitting there with it. And I said, "Well, what are you guys going to do for vacations?" He said, "Well, we're going to go to Europe for 3 weeks."
Mm.
That's going to take a lot of trips to El Segundo to go to
Right.
Europe for 3 weeks. So that's, that's precisely what we're talking about, Kristen. What
Mhm.
will change? I'm not going to be commuting. I'm not going to be maybe dressing up or buying all those special clothes, but you may be buying other clothes and you may be spending it on other things. And guys, if you golf, I'll guarantee you that golf bill is going to go up.
It's going to go way up, right?
One couple came in a long time ago and they said, it was one thing for us to go to Home Depot and Michael's on the weekend, but now every day is Saturday. So we were amazed at what we started spending. So getting that budget set now and then projecting into the future as to what your budget will be, because you're not commuting, but you are going on vacation and you're going on those things and you're traveling. And the other thing in Southern California is a lot of people say, well, we're thinking about really taking a hunk out of our budget when we retire because we're thinking about moving somewhere else. And I've said before on this show, and I say it often because I told you while we were talking offline, Kristen, one of the most predominant things that we hear from people coming in is, do we move out of California? Do we stay here? Do we relocate? Do we downsize? Something to do with the house. And I have no scientific study of this, but I would guess that 60% of the people are not going to live in the same house they're living in. So that's going to be a major budget buster, budget changer, or budget enhancer. So you need to consider that. What is it going to cost if we do move somewhere else and we don't like it and we move back, or we move away from the grandkids, or we move someplace and to follow our kids, and then the kids move somewhere else. So a lot of those things are big financial decisions when you do need to move. And a lot of people also, and I'm speaking more to the ladies out here that I've experienced, you're going to want to fix up that house. You're going to want to redo the kitchen. You're going to want to redo the bathroom. And I would say put your marriage to the test before you retire, because those remodeling things really put everything under stress. But you're going to want to do a lot of things like that. And all of that stuff, when it all boils down to it, has a dollar sign on it. So can I afford to retire? It's not just, can we squeak by? Nobody likes to be on a constricted budget where you're barely making it. You want to have some margin. You want to have some go-to money when you need it. How do you know whether you're going to have it or not? You have to really lay it out. Now, if you're an engineer, you've got that 6-page budget that's all taped together that you roll out in front of me on the conference table. But if you're not an engineer, okay, and you don't have a budget, you need to focus on what you're spending now so you can know what you can spend in. And then you go to the lumberyard that you've built up in the 401k, the 403b, and you say, can we do it? And that's how we start in building that retirement blueprint for you. We'll give it to you absolutely free, complimentary. All you got to do is come in and meet with one of our all-star advisors, one of our 5 offices, but you've got to pick up the phone and call us.
That's right. And that number to call is 888-930-5609 to be able to schedule your time to come in and get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. Well, Tom, I know it's a special weekend. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving. I hope you have a wonderful time with your family. I'm certainly thankful for you and thankful to the show. And we are thankful for you, our listeners. We wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. Until next time, be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next week.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.